Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Ryan Nordahl here, Epic Whitetail Habitat LLC. If you haven't already, you're new to my channel, really appreciate you hit that subscribe button. Today we're talking April deer chores. First thing on the list, we're going to wrap up some frost seeding here in the beginning of the month. I just looked at the 10-day forecast this morning. We still have a very good window of opportunity here in west central Wisconsin, actually, and a lot of the upper Midwest. And so we're going to be, finishing up our frost seeding here and getting our clovers, our alfalfas, our chicories down. Even guys are doing some switchgrass frost seeding. It's a great way to establish, a switchgrass patch, bedding area, whatnot. And so now's a great opportunity. And hey, if you miss your window, frost seeding your perennial food plots such as your clovers, alfalfa, and chicory, there's always overseeding. You just time it ahead of a timely rain, and you get it done that way. So you haven't missed your window yet if you're here in the upper Midwest, and it's going to be a great opportunity coming up here. And the next thing that's going to be on our list is hinge cutting and doing some TSI work, finishing up our TSI work. Now, don't get the two confused. They are not one and the same. When we're doing some hinge cutting, when we're talking hinge cutting and flush cutting like that, we're talking about going in, creating bedding areas. We're not hinge cutting where we want to do some TSI. Say I've got a grove of oak trees or, some desirable timber that maybe right now it's not necessarily ready to be harvested for timber, but I want to get, the junk trees and everything else out of there and allow those desirable trees to thrive. But we're doing our hinge cutting with a combination of hinge cuts, flush cuts. Maybe we're doing some girdling on trees because, on one of my properties, I have a lot of oak that are hanging over that are never going to make logs. They're arched way over. They're never going to make great timber. They're never going to make great acorn producing trees, even though they are white oaks, which deer prefer white oak over, any other type of oak, your reds, your blacks. But they're just never going to make a good timber tree. Their canopies, it's such a tight, mature canopy in that woods. The canopies of those trees are really narrow in comparison to what we really want them to be a high yielding acorn tree. So we're probably going to girdle them, allow more sunlight in. Hopefully we get some new regeneration of white oak in there and whatever other forbs and hardwood regeneration that we can get in, early successional regeneration. We want to get that going at this time as well. Now is a great time. Take advantage of the cooler weather to get out there and do some. But what I highly do not suggest is you start going in, cutting any trees during any high wind periods. Unfortunately, back at the beginning of March, a good friend, someone who became a good friend of my uncle over in Buffalo County, was out doing some TSI work, and unfortunately a tree caught the wind just right and it come back and it did not fall the way he wanted it to fall. And unfortunately, he lost his life over that. But, you've heard me say before, I would rather die doing what I love than doing something that I totally hate and miserable about doing. So that's just my opinion, and you guys got to be careful of it and be cautionable about, wind conditions, weather conditions. And, we're coming off a period of some pretty heavy rains here in west central Wisconsin. So a lot of these hillsides and stuff, they're slick with mud right now, and it's not favorable conditions to be out there doing any type of cutting that we are doing right now, that we want to be doing at this time of the year. And that brings me to my next one, tree stands, doing tree stand maintenance, maybe taking them down for the year. On my properties, I like to leave them hanging all year round, but I'm going in and I'm loosening up straps. I'm checking them out, making sure that there's no dry rot. They're not ripped in any kind of way, torn in any kind of way. Checking the cables, checking the chains, because we do have some stands that have chain support instead of cable supports on them. Checking the nuts and bolts, because leaving them out all year round, they will rust, and we want to make sure that we have a safe hunt and they're safe to climb into, kind of that peace of mind that we went through, checked everything, but we're loosening them up so those trees that they're sitting in have room to expand with growth over the growing season here this summer. And checking out that thing. We're even setting some new stands this time of year. Now is a great time to be doing all this kind of work because the weather is still generally, for the most part, kind of cool. I'm not going to say that I won't go out and hang stands throughout the summer months. I've done plenty in high heat conditions, high humidity conditions that we do get here in west central Wisconsin and wherever else I've helped before throughout the Midwest and out to the East Coast. But I prefer this time of year when it's still generally cool. And then we're clearing our shooting lanes too. Why now? Well, we're getting the majority of the shooting lanes that we're cutting cleared out. That way, it's my opinion that the deer, because I do get bucks that do summer on a property or are on a property all year round. In the general area where I'm hanging a stand, they're in that area all year round. Now, I understand, that there's a habitat shift in whitetails from summer to their fall, winter ranges and all that. I get that. But I do have some homebodies that never leave the property, never shift their patterns very much or anything. I want those shooting lanes cut out now so those bucks have time to adjust to the new manipulations to their surroundings. Because if I go in, I've just found that if I go in, even in August, and do my shooting lanes, that those bucks become hesitant or almost disappear from that area that were there. Now, it could have been the habitat shift or, that summer shift that happens. I understand that. But for mature bucks that have generally been homebodies their entire life, that don't move far from their summer range to their fall, winter ranges, I have noticed in the past that those deer tend to disappear, or they're hesitant, apprehensive about coming into any closer into that area. They just know that something is up. I want it done now. And if I have to go back in end of July, August, before our bow season starts in the middle of September here in Wisconsin, if I have to go in and do a little bit of detail work, that there's just subtle little cuts at that time, not a whole gaggle of new cuts that the deer aren't used to, that take time to adjust. I've made that mistake in the past where I went in, I knew I should have cut some shooting lanes, had a shooter buck in, couldn't get a shot at him in the first part of bow season, come in, clean those lanes out, and boom, he's gone for the rest of the season. You never see him by that stand location ever again. So learn from my mistakes. Number 5, doing mock scrapes. Is really now the time that you want to be doing mock scrapes. Any time of the year that you're in the deer woods is a great time to do a mock scrape vine. And I like using vines, like I said, because number one, it's natural. And if I can, I'm hanging them from a tree because it's even more natural. It's a cost-effective way. We've got vines growing all over the properties that I hunt, whether it's here at home or out on the other 2 properties, the family farm and the proving grounds. And we've got vine out there, a little bit of paracord, hanging them from a tree. Cost me very little money whatsoever. Now, I have done them. I've hung vines from cedar posts and whatnot. Still, I don't have that much money into them because those cedar posts, generally, I've found at farm auctions. So I can pick them up for $1 or $2 a piece. And hey, that's all I've got into them. But if I can hang them from a tree, I've got pennies on the dollar into a mock scrape. I'm not out hanging ropes that don't hold scent very well. They fly around in the wind. They're just not natural. But now is a great time because that's a way deer communicate. They're always, doesn't matter what time of year it is, they're always going somewhere. They're passing through under a branch or something. They're leaving that's how they communicate. That's how deer communicate, is through licking branches, rubbing their preorbital glands on their face, up in those branches and whatnot. Having them in strategic areas, like on an inside corner of a field, a big intersection where a lot of trails come together, pinch points, great places to hang these mock scrapes. And, I've got a couple particular mock scrapes on the proving grounds, I can get just about every deer that's ever been on the proving grounds that year to hit those particular mock scrapes because it's in their line of movement already. And now is a great time to be out there doing this stuff. There's always something to do in the deer woods. It doesn't matter if you're a weekend warrior, and if that's when you have the time, or if you're fortunate like I am to spend just about every day of your life out in the woods, there's always something to do. And there's always something to learn. That's the key thing, is you always want to be open-minded to learning something new every time that you step foot on your property. You could own a property for 40 years, basically like I have. It's been in my life, most of the properties except for this property here where I live, they've been in my life my entire life. I just turned 47 years old. And, I basically have been on those properties my entire life, and I'm always learning something new because deer patterns do change. Food dictates their patterns and everything else. And plus now the habitat manipulations we've done on those properties, as far as food plots, adding fruit trees, things like that, that does change their lines of movement. And so it's constantly evolving. Things change from year to year, no matter if things are established and in place already. Deer do differ how they use your property from year to year. So you always want to be out taking observations, scouting, and learning something. And last but not least, shooting your bow. Here in the month of April, I just started yesterday. We're the 2nd of April today. I started the 30-day challenge mainly for myself, just to shoot my bow every day here in the month of April, at least 1 arrow a day. But you have an opportunity too to join in on that. If you go over to my Facebook page, you got to like my Facebook page, give the post a like. When I make my daily post, it'll either be a picture of me shooting my bow that day or a video. I'll try to do more video than anything because to me that's just more authentic and real that I shot for that day, because I could post any random picture I wanted to, but I'll post my video. You have to like my Facebook page, you have to like my post, and you have to comment with a picture or video of you shooting your bow, and you'll have a chance to win a seed product from Domain Outdoor, drawn sometime early May, for that one person that, or number of people that post their pictures or comment on my pictures or on posts that I make, comment with their video or picture of them shooting their bow. You have to be shooting your bow in a picture or video. And those who do it the most and stay with me till the end, you'll have a chance to win seed product from Domain Outdoor. I have yet to decide what that particular seed product is going to be, but it's definitely going to be a seed product from Domain Outdoor. So I'd greatly appreciate that. You head over to my Facebook page, give it a like. And hey, if you know somebody else that might want to join in, share that with information with them as well. And I greatly appreciate that. So that's the things that we're doing here in the month of April, that I'm doing here in the month of April. And these are the things that I want to get accomplished. And I just want to share them with you because they might be things that you want to get done as well. If you have other things that you want to add to this list, I'd love to hear about it. Leave it in the comment below. But thanks, and again, any tools or products that you see me using in these videos, you can always find links in the description below if you'd like to check them out. They're usually off of Amazon, but sometimes from Cabela's or Shield Sporting Goods as well. And hey guys, thanks for joining me on this video, and good luck with your spring habitat projects. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll leave a link to my website, and there you can find my email address. Shoot me an email. I think my cell phone number is on there too. You can always reach out to me, via phone call. We can set up a free phone call session and just talk some strategy, a little bit of planning, and I'd love to help you out. That's the name of the game. It's not about what I do here. It's about helping you become better and prepare better for the upcoming hunting season. That's what it's all about for me, and hoping that you have success come the fall 2025 and beyond. So thanks for joining me on this video, guys. God bless you all for staying to the end. Take care, stay safe out there, and keep living the dream. Thank you.